Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company at Watches and Wonders 2025. We're with Chronoswiss, a well-known early indie from the early 80s. Chronoswiss was one of the pioneers in the space, and today we are getting it right from the top. We're talking to Oliver, chief and owner of the brand since 2012. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for being here, Tim.
We're very excited about the fact that almost everything here is new, and in the case of this polymer coat, something that's entirely new to me. I've never seen anything like this. But let's start with repeaters, because a lot of people don't know that Chronoswiss makes repeaters. Tell me about this series.
These two repeaters are quarter repeaters. We have the blue note here, and we have the scream here, based on the colors. It's a fully skeletonized quarter repeater. It's through nicely.
And you use the heritage in a car movement.
Correct. We use the Nika movement with the complication on top, doing the quarters.
Now, it's always been very important to Chronoswiss because for a long time, Chronoswiss probably had the world's best stock of the vintage Inicar 165 automatic. And so that's a very heritage piece for them. You're going to see some other movements, but this is great because it takes you back to the 80s and the 90s era of Chronoswiss, but also looks forward with some decidedly postmodern colors. Now, there's also a little bit of depth effect here. So as you layer it up, tell me about the process of designing a dial like that. Is it done in-house? Do you bring in consultants? That's very elaborate, avant-garde.
It's all done in-house, the design. Then the bridges we buy off and we assemble it in-house. So if we would have the small lamp, I could show you. I think the special thing about the screen is that it glows in all different colors. So if you look at it,
they will all phosphoresce.
Correct. All of them are superluminova, but every single index is a different color.
Oh yeah.
So we're talking about 50 pieces that we have to put together for this dial, all by hand. So everyone is very colorful.
Now this is a quarter repeater, so this is a watch that's going to chime the hours and the quarters, and it's going to be fairly vocal. Did you find that there's any challenge getting the sound out of the watch? Because one of the great challenges with any chiming watch is projecting the sound.
It's a titanium case, titanium 5 case, and titanium, as you might know, is the best material to get the sound out. So it's a very nice and loud sound. It might be difficult to hear it here, but...
no, by all means, if you want to put it right up to...
push it.
This may be a prototype.
No.
Oh, there we go. All right. That I could hear that even above the din of a room full of people laughing and carrying on. That is actually quite vocal. Also quite impressive that it has any degree of water resistance. Usually with the minute repeater, there isn't any.
30 meters.
Now, what's the availability on this? When will people be able to buy this?
We are now starting with the production, so beginning of May we should be able to deliver it.
And is the Primal Scream a limited edition or a regular offering?
No, we're doing 50 pieces each.
50 pieces. And it has this wonderful...
No, sorry, 50 in total, so 25, okay. 25.
And it has this lovely glass box sapphire that's very cool. I noticed you have changed the Chronoswiss case over the years. It seems like the coining is a little bit less pronounced. The crystal is much more vaulted and cambered. How do you go changing something like the lugs, the bezel, the crystal on something that is so iconic? Because people think Chronoswiss, they think this case. What's it like to have to do plastic surgery on the legend?
It's a difficult thing because you have to go step by step, slow. And as you say, if you do it too much, it's not the same thing. So we try to keep the red line, the DNA, and the process just to shorten the case, shorten the lux, sometimes takes weeks and a lot of discussions within the team. But I think here we did a nice way of shortening the lux and still being Chronoswiss with the crown and everything. So it's always a question of having the right proportions.
And what is the diameter of the case on this?
41.
And I got to say 45. That normally in the past, a Chronoswiss watch that was a 41 would have worn enormous. It would have been like a 44 or 45. So reducing the lugs, to me, having worn a lot of Chronoswiss watches, that's a huge breakthrough. The repeater, the dial, the phosphorescence, really cool. The ergonomics, though, that's so fundamental.
And I think it's a box glass, which also gives a lot of additional luminosity when you look from the inside, from the side. So it looks like a rainbow.
It does, yeah. I can see that. The bridges rise above the edge of the crystal, and you can see the different colors. That's very cool. So now the blue note's a little bit more conservative. What was the origin of the name here? I know you had other inspirations.
You know the coffee place in New York? Good jazz, so that's where the name comes from. and of course, because it's chiming,
Yes.
makes a nice
It's just like jazz.
story, just like jazz. Exactly.
Very cool. And so you're going to do 25 of each of these, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And do you have recommended retail available for these in terms of pricing?
$42,000.
Excellent. Now let's talk about something that is beyond the scope of anything you've done before. Chronoswiss has made chiming watches previously, and we've seen the Inicar base, but now this is completely new, and actually you're wearing this watch right now. What is this? And tell me all about it.
It's our new family. It's called Pulse. This is the Pulse Sand and Pulse in blue. The idea was to not only doing, as you mentioned before, an evolution, going from different types of lux, shorter, etc., going into a new family. And we worked on it over a year to come up with the DNA of Chronoswiss, but having a watch with the bracelet included, and just a different look, but still with the regulator type, retrograde regulator, 100-meter water resistant. So it's a sport watch with a Chronoswiss look, elegant yet, and timeless. This was the idea. And when you wear it with the bracelet, my wish was always to have it as a second skin, and I think we achieved it to be very nice while wearing it.
That's an interesting watch because it is 41 millimeters, but it's also an integration of lug with bracelet, which is a very unusual thing for Chronoswiss. What I find also fascinating is that the blue dial version features conventional polished hands, whereas on the salmon dial you get these lovely blued hands and indices that pop against the base. But really, the life of this watch is the 30-second retrograde. That's got a lot of energy to it. How'd you decide to make it a 30-second rather than a 60 or an hourly retrograde?
Came up with the design. I think if you do it too much, I think it's always a proportion when we do design. And you start with 90, 60, whatever, and then we stayed with the 30.
So now this watch is made of titanium, and it does have an integrated bracelet. And one feature I really like about the bracelet is that on the underside, it actually has little recesses for the clasp. So the clasp and the bracelet combined are only as thick as the bracelet itself. It's a really nice refinement.
Put it on.
I will do, absolutely. Now it's great because ergonomics with titanium, with that particular bracelet form, the shape of the lugs. I've actually thought for a long time that Chronoswiss might want to consider a different lug form. And I know you don't want to mess with the past, but this is a good way of offering something new and different for people who maybe don't want a very traditional pastille style lug. It's a really good look. And it's not thick either.
No,
It's not particularly thick. It's a light watch. It's grade 5 tie. It's got a sandblasted dial, but it's also got the Haute and the hour track in sandblast. And it's a regulator. It's like the traditional Chronoswiss regulator.
correct.
Now the base movement's also different. I think this is where some people are going to be surprised, because I think a lot of people, even those who really love the Chronoswiss brand, remember the 90s when there were a lot of ETA or Inicar movements. This is not. This is a new generation movement that
It's
you've
a
been
movement
using.
that we designed, and we're producing it with La Jouperet. So it's a manufacture movement we do in small series.
55-hour power reserve,
55 hours power reserve, tungsten rotor,
large diameter.
exactly. So special decoration.
It's very attractive. I mean, I think it's important. A lot of historic Chronoswiss fans remember the Inicar, and they're really attached to that. But if you want to do larger watches, it does help to have a larger movement. So it's definitely good to have both in the catalog. And I think for a sports watch that's very modern and forward-looking, that is a good step to take. Also, it's not terribly thick. It's pretty compact. It'll fit under a cuff if you do want it to be a dress bracelet. I could see that it looks like every link is removable. Is that the case?
Absolutely.
Now, when are these going to be
think
available? Oh, I'm sorry, I
also,
didn't
no,
mean to cut you
no.
off.
Starting from end of April, that's when we want to have it in the showrooms. The idea was to have a watch that from beach to tux. So you can wear it on the beach for sports, but you can also wear it as an elegant, as a dress watch when you go to the opera. And I think we pretty much achieved it.
In terms of pricing and availability?
Around 11,800.
Okay, that's Swiss franc.
Swiss franc, exactly. So $13,000, I suppose. And availability beginning of May as well.
Excellent. And just because a lot of people are new to the brand and they're probably going to be seeing it here for the first time, what kind of warranty coverage do you offer?
We offer 1 year, and then you sign up and you get another 2 years. So
Okay.
it's 3 years that what we offer.
So if you do, sign up. That's the key thing. They can do that on your website?
Of course.
Absolutely. Okay, so very cool things coming now in the world of sports watches, but we're going to jump back to something that feels like a throwback to the old 1996 Delphis. and people loved the Delphis, but you have to move forward. It can't just all be nostalgia. Tell me about how you took it to the 21st century right here.
You remember the Delphis?
I love the Delphis.
And we do the guilloche and the enameling in-house. We're very proud of this. So we have 2 guilloche, 1 enamel person. So we said, this is the 40th anniversary. We're also celebrating 40 years of Chronoswiss. So we said, Delphis has been one of the most important watches. It has a turning second, it has the jumping hour and the retrograde minute. So this was a novelty back in the years. So we said, this is the watch which we want to have as an anniversary watch. And it's also a new family because we call this Area 51. So we said, okay, old mechanism, the guilloche, the enameling inside, and what can we put on top? Area 51, you know what this is. So this is all special things that haven't been done before. And
or that you're not supposed to know about.
Exactly. So, but I will tell you. So we came up with this nano titanium coating, which you see here, and it has been the first time done on a case. And it's a good way you're holding it. You see the core.
Yes.
So if this is the case, you put it into a honey pot. Looks like a honey pot. You put it in, you take it out, you let it dry, and then you get this material on top. And then you rework it on a CNC machine.
So once you've coated it with the polymer, then you work it on a CNC machine.
Yeah, you work the same structure again on the CNC machine, just with a different tolerance.
And so this is actually polished. This is actually a finished surface.
This is first CNC, so you get the same shape, because when you get it out of the honey pot, it has a kind of a cube. Then you rework it on the CNC machine, and then you polish it.
Very cool. So this is the Area 51, guys. Is this a limited edition, this example?
It's a limited edition, yeah.
But there is a standard Delphis that's available on a continuous basis.
Correct, but not with this particular nano titanium coating.
The best way to describe this, for those of you who are seeing it on the internet, it's like when you start with an apple and then you dip it to create a candy shell. This is like a candy apple dip, and it is the craziest thing I've ever seen on a watch. It's not PVD, it's not CVD, it's not paint. It's literally a polymer cast of the watch that is co-molded with the watch. I've even been told that it becomes a permanent part of the titanium.
It does.
That is very cool.
It interacts, and I think you see it very nicely here when you look at it. It's the look through that you get here. It really looks liquid, and this you cannot do with any coating.
Is it available in any other colors?
It will be available in different colors. For now, we have it only in red.
Okay. And then the dial, I could see there's a guilloche pattern. That's not stamped, that's actually engine turned.
That's engine turned on our Rose turning engine, which you see here in the back. We also do straight engine work on guilloche. So this is all done in-house, all by hand.
And this also has the LJP automatic base, so you got a big movement for a big case. 41
Same
still?
41 and a half, yeah. 42 actually, yeah.
Excellent, 42.
And the red color here is a red enamel that we burn also in-house. So the enameling is also done in-house.
So the case is polymer, but the dial is an enamel.
The dial is guilloche and then enamel.
So
exactly.
it's a flinke.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. I like that a
That's
lot.
also what's our tagline, the modern mechanical. So you have a lot of mechanical old part in it, the handicraft of the guilloche, the enameling, but then at the same time we try to connect with the future.
And I will say,
materials.
the fit is quite good. Like I remember Chronoswiss being a fun brand, but overpowering, and I could make that work. It's a lot of fun right there. So when is availability for this, and what will the retail price be?
Starting from also from May, retail is around $40,000.
Okay. So if you guys want something that is literally unique, I'm sure now that you've debuted it, people will rip you off and copy you to death because it's pretty cool. But for now, this is completely unique. A candy apple watch.
That's a good name because my daughters, they're doing exactly the candy apple.
Well, there you go.
That's the same system. Just
after Area 51, you can have the candy apple. Maybe do the next one in green. You can call it the Granny Smith. So now we have something that's very different from what I think most people imagine when they hear about Chronoswiss. These are much more traditional dress style watches. Tell me about this collection.
It's called the small second orbit and small second dune. The dune, the name comes from a journey I did in Namibia many years back, so it remembers me of the dunes, of the moving dunes.
Very cool.
Supernova dials, nice indexes that are put screwed on top of it. You have a bit of guilloche here in the small second.
Yes.
So it's also done on the machine. On the orbit, you have a big Guilloche dial on top, on the rose turning engine. And here it's a laser cut dial that is coated with a brownish color.
And what is the size of these cases?
41.
So these are both 41, but I gotta say, this 41 is a very compact 41. So I know everyone's gonna say, well, put it on your wrist. Well, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. So putting it on my wrist, I would not have guessed 41. The lugs are very prominent, and they always have been. These feel like really full-sized lugs, but we'll get to them in a moment. They have some artistry to them. The watch is very thin, so if you're gonna wear this as a dress watch, it's a good fit for a shorter cuff. Nice piece, really cool, neutral, I would say, because this is still not precious metal. This is steel, right?
That's steel.
So stainless steel, it's a very versatile watch, and I would say also because it's got the latest, largest caliber inside, it's a good hand and glove fit of movement to case size. Now, how do you achieve this look almost as though it's the knots of wood or maybe the imperfection of a natural material? Because you've got the granular finish, but then you've also got the shading.
It's a printing. It's a coated. It's first coated and then it's a printing on top of it. So it's done on purpose.
That reminds you of the dunes that you saw on your trip.
Correct.
Very cool. So there is actually a second layer on top of the granular base. That's a very cool piece. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about the orbit. By the way, both these are luminescent. So these are watches you intend for people to wear full time.
Absolutely. All of the watches.
So tell me about this strap now, because these are actually two very interesting straps. This feels almost like a suede on both sides.
It's a new book. Exactly, black one with the same blue collar than you have inside. So always the collar of the inside of the strap fits with the dial.
Okay, and then over here we have more of like a distressed calfskin.
Correct.
And then on the bottom, again, is this?
It's the bit of the collar that we get on the dial in front.
Is it nubuck? Is it suede?
It's a nubuck.
Okay, very nice. So they feel as good as they look. All right. So when will these be available, and what will pricing look like?
End of May. They will be end of May. Pricing is around $10,000.
Excellent. So it's a really cool point of entry to a very cool brand, and they're very personable and very friendly. So this is the 1916 company of Chronoswiss at Watches and Wonders 2025. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Excellent.